media, no Kodak moments, fast balls with my pictures on them. Nah, I ain't even in the school yearbook. I don't do too much pose, I got a cool killer look.
That was me driving. The reason why I did that is because what kind of music do you listen to when you drive? What kind of music do you listen to when you're working out? What kind of music do you listen to when you're walking? What do you listen to? Because it's crazy some of the things I think about. And some of the things I think about is, I wonder what Al Heyman does. I wonder if he has any kids. I wonder if he's married. What kind of music does he listen to? Does he listen to Lil Wayne? Does he listen to Jim Pepper? Does he listen to R&B, bluegrass? You know, does he listen to, you know, like the Moody Blues, Diana Ross, Barry White, Nicki Minaj, Drake? And the reason why I ask that is this man right here.
Through the grapevine, they just wanna hit mine. Say my name and die in the daytime. You catch my drip, man, you better be big time. Boy, the heat sign, they making peace pies. I'm in this bitch doing up to 17.
Do you know that Al Heyman, thank you Al Heyman, thank you so much. Do you know that he promotes Lil Wayne concerts? Promotes Lil Wayne tours? You ever heard of the Budweiser Music Festival? Coachella? Beyonce, Jay-Z, Barry White, Diana Ross, Whitney Houston, Stevie Wonder, Donnie Warwick, and the list goes on. Now, when you hear people say, oh yeah, well, Al Heyman used to be a music promoter, they talk about it so loosely, but I'm telling you this, listen, Al Heyman is the music promoter. Al Heyman is the most powerful music promoter in the United States of America, maybe the world. Madonna once said, thank you, Al Heyman. Lady Gaga once said, thank you, Al Heyman. And these people are still saying, thank you, Al Heyman. So let me just run it down to you before we go a little further. We got Floyd Mayweather, thank you, Al Heyman. Beyonce, thank you, Al Heyman. Jay-Z, thank you, Al Heyman. Whitney Houston, God rest her soul, thank you, Al Heyman. Lady Gaga, thank you, Al Heyman. Drake, thank you, Al Heyman. Nicki Minaj, thank you, Al Heyman. And the list goes on and on and on. But when you think about Al Heyman, especially boxing fans, I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live with Real Combat Media, and I cover boxing. People are wondering about the sunglasses. Well, for one, my eyes are very sensitive to light right now. They're getting better. But moving on, Al Heyman, when it comes to our sport, the sweet science, you know, our sport of boxing, you ask yourself, I wonder if Al Heyman used to box. I wonder if he grew up as a kid watching boxing. I say this, his brother used to be a boxer. Al Heyman's brother, Alan Heyman's brother, fought Sugar Ray Leonard. Bobby Heyman. I'm dead serious. I'm dead ass serious. So, what I'm saying to you is this. You have a man that, how can I put it, has deals, have constructed deals with basically the biggest music venues in the United States, if not all the major ones. So when you think about, okay, all right, Floyd Mayweather always fights in the MGM Grand. Did you know that even if Floyd doesn't fight in the MGM Grand, Al Heyman is still putting on concerts and whatever in the MGM Grand? I know I'm trying to get you to understand, because I've been talking about it for weeks. I'm really trying to get you to grasp what I'm saying. Al Heyman is a very, very powerful individual. So when we have somebody like this in our sport of boxing, we want to know what his motivation is. Now, as far as 2013 has been concerned, it was a good year for boxing. 2014, oh dear God. You know, after the Mayweather-Maidana one card, everything just went downhill. But before I go any further, I want you to factor in Richard Schaefer. And I must say that, you know, from what I've learned about Richard Schaefer, I don't like him. Even though I never met him in person, I don't like him. But Al Heyman on the other end, yes, he does take care of his fighters, but at what cost? Now, it's easy to throw the blame at him. And right now, I'm going to say I admire the man, and I'm going to wait until 2015 before I fully pass judgment on him, because when you factor in Richard Schaefer resigning from Golden Boy, when you factor in Richard Schaefer was Golden Boy Promotions, can't take that away from him. Even though Oscar is the Golden Boy in the face, Richard Schaefer was the one that did all the day-to-day operations. Richard Schaefer was the ones responsible, along with Al Heyman. Thank you, Al Heyman. Thank you so much. He was responsible for putting the events together. So what I'm saying is, when you have the most powerful promoter, along with a Swiss banker, and I'm talking about Al Heyman is a promoter, music promoter, and a Swiss banker, that's bad business but big business. So the way boxing fans, including myself, look at Golden Boy Promotions or Al Heyman fighters is that they're assets. No, we don't want to put you against this person just yet. We want to maximize your profit. And with this large stable of Al Heyman fighters, some say 70, some say 125. Either way, that's a lot of boxing. You wonder, like, how can you keep all these guys happy? Now, I think that the reason why we're getting a lot of these safe fights is because of the departure of Richard Schaefer. That's the reason why I think we're getting a lot of these safe fights. And I don't want to go into too much detail on that, but you got to think, I mean, this was the man responsible for cutting all the checks. We haven't heard of Floyd Mayweather getting pay-per-view buys since. So, moving on. When you look at Al Heyman fighters, it is easy to see that they are being protected. And what I'm saying by protected is that they're calling fighters out, but then we know, boxing fans, the fighters do not pick their fights. They can go to their manager and say, no, I want this, I want that. But here is the thing. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a manager. We're going to talk about an advisor. And we're going to talk about a promoter. A manager is responsible for making sure the boxers are making money. The manager is responsible for the business end of the boxer. The manager is the one that will call up Coca-Cola and say, yeah, I would like you to sponsor my fighter. Now, a manager is say, okay, well, listen, this is who you're going to fight, and we think this is the best, we're going to put this together for you, and, you just chill out, you go train, champ. But when you factor in what's an advisor is this. Let's figure Adrian Broner, Lucas Matisse. Adrian Broner can go to Al Heyman and say, yeah, I said I want Lucas Matisse. Anybody can get it. An Argentine can, Mexican. But an advisor would say, well, I advise you that he gonna fuck you up. I advise you not to take that fight. I advise you to fight this person. So an advisor is telling you, is advising your ass what to do. Is putting in, how can I put it? When you go first go to college, you get a freshman advisor. You got to go to that freshman seminar class. You first go to college, you got that advisor telling you, I advise you to take these classes. Your ass don't have to take those classes. You don't have to take them, but they telling you from experience. I advise you to do this because I've seen in the past you got beat up by Marcos Maidana. So I advise you to fight Carlos Molina. But what happens? Adrian Broner invokes his rematch clause. He wants to get his rematch. Al Heyman, even though he wants even though he wanted Marcos Maidana, Al Heyman manages all three of those guys. And the reason why I'm saying manage, I'm not saying advisor no more. I'm not saying advisor. Because he has the power to make people drop their belts. And you know what that means? That means, when you hear a boxer signing with Al Heyman, they're not signing to be advised and be like, well, I think you should do this, I think you should do that. He's telling you, all right, I take care of you, but you do everything I say. Simple as that, no ifs, ands, and buts. They'll all tell it to you. There are many interviews where every major Al Heyman fighter, they say, look, I don't pick my fights. Al Heyman say, go fight this person, I go fight him. Simple as that. Because why? Because he takes care of his boxers. And he charges them less than the average manager. But listen, with that being said, he may charge less than the average manager, but yet we don't know how many advances he's given out or whatever the case may be. All his fighters are happy. And how do you make boxers happy? Money. Money and TV dates. Al Heyman has been known to promise and get, fighters TV dates fighting God knows who. To the point where HBO got sick of him and said, listen, we gave Andre Berto and Alfredo Angulo 7 fights apiece in 2 years, and they ain't fought nobody. You know, ratings wasn't doing well and everything like that. You had, you know, Ross Greenberg. See, I can go on with this all day. But Ross Greenberg used to be the one in charge of HBO Sports. He's not anymore because why? Because he let the influence of Al Heyman come in and start basically controlling boxing. So when you got what Al Heyman's trying to do, people say monopoly. No, it can't happen. But what he is doing is, you know, Kathy Dover pointed it out the best, and this was an interview a couple of years ago, is that, you know, small time promoters or smaller promoters than Golden Boy are building up these fighters, you know, marketing these fighters, and then you got a guy like Al Heyman with all his money coming in and sign that fighter. And it's like all the hard work from that first promoter is gone. But now, you know, that was 2 years ago. We have been seeing Golden Boy and Al Heyman fighters develop. But here's the thing: you get, and it's how can I put it? It's predictable. And I talked about it before. You'll get Keith Thurman and Lucas Matisse on the same card, but they won't fight each other. Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson on the same card, they won't fight each other. You get Lucas Matisse, Adrian Broner, and Andre Berto on the same card, nobody fights each other. So what I'm saying is you get top level Al Heyman guys who are fighting lower level guys who majority of the time are overmatched. And this is what he was doing over in HBO, and HBO wasn't having it. So when you got HBO being the #1 cable network and you got Showtime trying to catch up, you can put a Danny Garcia against a Rod Salka, you know, because when you want those people who's watching Ray Donovan or Masters of Sex, whatever Showtime shows, you want them to see exciting fighting. So when you're seeing somebody get knocked out, you're seeing boxing for the first time, you're like, oh, what is this? But to boxing fans, we're losing. Now, they may be gaining a lot of subscribers. Yes, they may be gaining subscribers. But at the same time, what they're doing is they're alienating the fans. Now, you got to think of corporate. Listen, there are people above Steven Espinoza. There are people above Al Heyman. And just like HBO got sick of him, a multi-billion-dollar network, it's only a matter of time before Showtime say, yo, what are you doing? Now, if you don't know, this is what'll happen. For example, you got talks of Iris Lindy Lara versus Ishe Smith. You got a higher level Al Heyman guy versus a lower level Al Heyman guy. Right? What else? At one point in time, you had Adrian Broner versus Marcos Maidana. That's before Marcos. That's when they thought Marcos Maidana was a lower guy. You got, you know, I believe John Molina is under Al Heyman, if I'm correct. You would get a Keith Thurman, you know, fighting God knows who, and we know he fought Julio Diaz, Jesus Soto Carras. But there is a system to his matchmaking, and after a while, it keeps continuing to the point where you'll hear these guys on the same card, but you'll know they're not fighting each other, and it keeps happening over and over and over. And I think to myself, there's got to be some grand plan or some big massacre of all these undefeated records when it comes to 2015. I'm talking about, we're talking about seeing Danny Garcia versus Lucas Matisse 2, you know, or Keith Thurman versus a Devin Alexander or an Amir Khan. Like, for example, another thing, we look at Amir Khan. We know what the situation is. He's trying to cherry pick the Mayweather, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But here's the thing, and I haven't talked about it. I was going to talk about it at the beginning of the video. The WBO president has reached out to John McCAIN. I forgot how to pronounce his last name. Sir. Long story short, I'll post the link to his Twitter below. Because he wants the role of an advisor to be defined. Like, what is an advisor? Now, if you don't know, it's clear that Al Heyman is putting together these events. But what exactly is an advisor? And what limitations does an advisor has? So, WB president, obviously, I can see is maybe upset with the fact that the purse bids, and also the fact that Peter Quillen just dropped his belt, and we know it was because of his advisor. But see, a manager has limitations, a promoter has limitations, but as it's written right now in the Boxing Reform Act, there is no limitations for an advisor. You know, or there's no clear-cut definition of what an advisor can and cannot do. Now, on the behalf of boxing is concerned, it's not just me, you know, and we got to point out as far as I'm concerned, African Americans, they love Al Haymon, but they're not looking at what's being done to the sport. And I'm dead serious. And you know, and that's the controversy behind it. It's like, well, he's taking care of the fighters. The fighters are eating. The fighters are eating. You know how much Showtime cost me a year? You know how many fights I pay for a year? So the fact that I watch so much boxing and I'm seeing, you know, Lucas Konieczny, you know, I'm thinking to myself, like, what is this? Deontay Wilder, Jason Gavin, and I'm thinking, you're the #1 contender for the belt, homie. You know, but once again, thank you, Al Haymon. Thank you so much. And all I've noticed is that all Al Haymon wants from you is to make sure you thank him. This man may have a heart of gold, but when it comes to being a businessman, he's a crude, shrewd businessman. I'm telling you, dude gets shit done. And what I did with the Lil Wayne at the beginning of the video, I want you to think like, he's in tune with all this stuff going on with Mayweather in the hip-hop community and all that. You see him in his photos, he's got those old-looking men's warehouse suits on, his Razor phone, his 1974 brown ties, you know, his little side hair all nappy looking. And you looking at him like, damn, dude is powerful as hell. I mean, don't know nothing about it. So if you think about it, it would be easy maybe if he did press conferences every now and then and explained his plan. But it's so much speculation about what he is and what he's doing. And why is because he never comes out and say, okay, well, this is the plan, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to sit up here for 20 minutes, 30 minutes talking about this. But what I want to say is this. How long before the walls, you know, come crumbling down? It seems as though, I'm trying to figure out if I can put it better than the walls are closing in. And I'll just say, it seems as though boxing, you know, the boxing community is getting sick of his shit. You know, when you look at the matchups, and then once you start getting the governing bodies involved, you know, like the WBO, the WBC, the WBA, and remember the WBC, WBA, and the IBF had a meeting and they're having another one. You know, so like I said, you know, we can talk about the politics in boxing, but you can talk about you're hating on this person and hating on that person and this person, yada, yada, yada. If you don't know the politics of boxing, then, you know, you're lost. You're lost in the sauce. But once again, this is T Street Controversy. I got my eyes gotta start getting used to the light, because every time I put them on, that's going backwards. So once again, this is T Street Controversy. T Street Controversy Live.